full-blown acceleration. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a 2021 Honda Civic Sport. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Stockton 12 Honda for providing us with this Civic. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Under the hood of the Honda Civic Sport, we have a turbocharged 1.5 liter four-cylinder that goes through a CVT automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 29 around town and then 35 on the highway, with power outputs being 180 horsepower and then 177 pound-feet of torque. Let's go over the front end of this Civic. So first and foremost, you guys will notice that you've got these, well, of course they just pop off, but you have LED accent lights that come down here with the projector bulbs. They are halogen bulbs for the lights. And then you've got the fog lights just down below. I love how aggressive this looks in this whole area. And then you got the signature Honda logo, which is finished in chrome, but everything else is blacked out other than the logo. But yeah, all the openings, everything just makes this car look so aggressive from the front end, and I just really like it. It's got like this aggressive kind of like futuristic looking design. Now let's go over the tire and wheel setup. So we've got two 35mm tires on 18-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. As for the rest of the design on the wheels themselves, notice that most of it's blacked out, but then you also have these little silver inserts, and so it's pretty cool with the overall design. It's kind of like a spider web type design they have on the wheels here. And then I love how the little side skirt here has been all blacked out there on the side. Definitely looks good. And then you can see that with the front splitter as well. That's also been blacked out. And then these mirrors are super interesting. They're like super flat looking. It's just very different in general from an aesthetic perspective. But here is your full side view on the Sport. Now let's actually pop into the rear of the Civic. So first and foremost, this is such an interesting cargo cover. Like, it's just weird that it pops to the side. It's kind of hard to take it back with one hand. But yeah, definitely different from a cargo cover perspective. You go to the floor mats back here, per normal, but underneath here you can see that's where the spare tire lies with the Civic Sport. And other than that, storage space back here is really good. Obviously the hatch definitely helps out with adding a little bit more storage room. Now let's go over the rest of the rear of the Civic. So first and foremost, you've got these signature Civic taillights, which look really cool because they integrate it with the spoiler back here. And this has like two spoilers. You have one down here, and then you have one at the top. Double spoiler action. But yeah, overall I really love the taillights, and then you can see the venting back here all blacked out. Is it functional? Who cares? It still looks cool. And then the whole like rear diffuser setup here again looks super aggressive. So like overall the back end for like a car of this price just looks so cool. Let's go over the door panel on the Civic Sport. So you can see you've got this soft touch down here in this little area. I love the speakers back here. And then here are the seats in the rear. So you can see the center part is cloth, but then you have the soft touch here on the sides. Hopefully you guys can see how soft that is. And then on the side of the seat as well, and then all down the center. But let's actually pop in. So stepping in, I do have to duck a little. If you guys are wondering, I'm 5'11", and I've got a good amount of headroom. And then legroom is also solid as well. There is no like center cup holder thing like there normally is back here, but you have something in the door. And other than that, this is everything for the rear of the Civic. And here's the door panel at the front of the Civic. You can see you've got this really nice trim just up above, and then you've got all the soft touch just down below. All of your window controls here in this area, and then you've got your mirror adjustments as well. And then a couple more speakers for the sound system. And then here are the seats at the front. So again, you've got the cloth. I love this little stripe down here in the center, and then you've got the soft touch on the side of the seat and kind of like in the little back area. And then you can see the seats are manually adjustable. The pedals, for as cheap as this car is, it has really nice pedals. And then you got a little latch for the hood. And then up here you've got the collision assistance, the stability control, and then the lane departure assistance. And there's one more look before we pop in. Now let's go over the steering wheel here with the Civics. You've got soft touch all around the entire steering wheel, and then you've got the white stitching there on the center. We've got our cruise control over here on this side with the lane keep assist, and then you do have the paddle shifters there on the back of the steering wheel. And then over here you've got all the controls for the center stack, your phone controls, voice command controls, all that stuff. A little stock for the lights, and then the stock for the windshield wipers on the other side, and that is everything for the steering wheel of the Civic. Now here's the center gauge cluster with the Civic. I love how futuristic it looks and how it kind of like all comes together with like the gauges all facing towards the center, and then you have that huge arc there in the center with the RPMs. It just looks really, really cool in my opinion. And then the other cool thing is you do have those little menus you can scroll through with the center screen. So you can see there's a bunch of different information here in the center. Nothing too crazy though. It's pretty much the standard setup for most modern cars. Now here's the center infotainment system. First and foremost, we'll pop it in reverse. You guys can see the backup camera. You do have trajectory lines that do turn with the steering wheel, and then you can kind of zoom in with that as well. I guess this is like the tow mode if you ever put a receiver hitch on your Civic. But yeah, other than that, really good with the camera system. As for the rest of the infotainment system, this has been in Honda for a while. Response time on it's good. I like kind of like the little graphics they do, especially when you go to like the home screen, how it like illuminated with that. But yeah, there's nothing too crazy. And like I said, response time on it's really good. It's easy to use, but yeah, that little home screen, like how it just like pops to it, I think that's just really neat. Just down below, we've got our climate controls here for the Civic. And then you can see right here, you've got a little USB. It's pretty interesting how they've rigged that together. And then here's the shifter for the CVT. And again, you can do the manual shifts if you want. And that's kind of like your sport mode as you put it over into the S. And then you've got your brake hold. And then you've got your parking brake as well. This is the eco mode, which will just pop up here in the center. So nothing too crazy with that. And then here's the center console, which is pretty interesting. So you've got soft touch all around it, and then the console like slides back, and that's how you actually open it up. You got some storage there. You've got the cup holders here, but the cup holders also slide because there's more storage underneath. So like you just have to learn to slide things all day basically, and that's how you use this console. Coming over to the dash, you can see you've got a bunch of like weird material here, just the texture on it. Soft touch just up above the glove box, and then opening it up, storage space is pretty good. Now here's the top of the Civic. We've got some light controls and a full black headliner, and it's actually pretty soft to touch. But other than that, the top is pretty simple and there's not much else to go over. Well, I totally forgot to go over pricing. So quickly, in terms of the pricing on this Civic, it stickers for just under $25,000 before any type of market adjustment. And now let's talk about the visibility. So you can see visibility over the hood. It's really easy to see out of it. And then here's your visibility through both of the mirrors. They do not have blind spot monitoring. And then here's through the rest of the rear. So you can see there's definitely a little blind spot right there, but other than that, it's not bad by any means. And that all being said, let's set off. We are now setting off here in the 2021 Civic, and first and foremost, let's actually talk about the road noise and the ride quality. So from a ride quality perspective, this might be slightly smoother than its competitors in terms of ride quality. It actually feels really nice. Yeah, going over those doesn't upset it whatsoever. And then from a road noise perspective, I put it at about average, maybe a little bit less. There's quite a bit of noise from the tires, but again, it's nothing that would annoy you by any means. The steering feels really good with this car though. I really love this steering rack, just how direct it is. And I actually do get a little bit of feedback through the steering as well. So it kind of makes this just feel a little bit sportier from a driving perspective. And the brakes are actually pretty good as well with the car. And the thing I'm noticing so far is I thought that blind spot might be an issue, but it really isn't from a visibility standpoint. The windows are big enough that I just don't feel like I have any visibility issues with this whatsoever. And you always have to be careful here in Utah because some people use their turn signals, some people don't, and some people use their turn signals and still go straight. So yeah, anyways, yeah, I love the feeling of the steering. This is really responsive. I just drove a CR-V before this, and this definitely feels a lot more responsive than that CR-V, which I'm surprised because they both have CVTs. But yeah, it is what it is. We're gonna pop it over into the manual shift mode here, and then we'll get our full-blown acceleration. So the ratios are really close together. That's kind of expected. Most CVTs are like that. Acceleration is pretty decent. It's average for the segment, maybe actually a little bit above average slightly. There's some cars that are still definitely a lot slower than this in this segment, so I'd put it actually a little bit above average for the acceleration. Yeah, CVT is pretty good. I drove a Nissan the other day, and the CVT on that was super responsive. I was really surprised, and that kind of like ruined CVTs for me, because now like if any CVT is not as responsive as that, I'm kind of like, eh. but no, it's still really good in general. And we'll kind of see the steering here again. Yeah, I love the steering rack. I just like how it feels. It just has this nice sporty feel to it. Like you just get quite a bit of feedback through the wheel. It's just really nice in general. And that'll get me into summing things up with the Civic hatchback. So first off, from an exterior styling perspective, definitely looks crazy and sporty. I've always just liked Honda styling with the Civic just because it's just so out there, and I love out there styling. Now from an interior perspective, this interior is pretty good. If you do want a nicer interior, then you can go for like the Sport Touring, and the interior will definitely be a lot nicer than that. And then from the driving perspective, I really like how this drives in general. Like I said, it gives you like a sportier drive. So if you're looking for like a good fuel economy commuter car, but you want something that's a little bit more exciting to drive, then that's where the Civic's going to come into play, because you get quite a bit of feedback through the steering. The handling's really good as well, and so then it just kind of like elevates it a little bit above its competitors. Now that is going to sum things up for our video on this 2021 Honda Civic Sport. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to Stockton 12 Honda for providing me with this Civic. Check out their inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you in that next video.